we're going to do a little game today. Mortal Kombat 1's roster consists of classic fighters and those from the 3D era. The NRS characters are gutted out. So what I thought I'd do in this video is use a character I feel mid about, not my favorite characters, but not the characters that I don't care about, to make it fair. And what I mean by this is I'm going to go through each NRS character from X and 11 and see if I would bring them back into this game or not. For example, D'Vorah. Would I bring D'Vorah in Mortal Kombat 1 in place of Reiko? That's going to be the character I use as my example, because Reiko's about mid for me. He's not my favorite characters, but I also don't think he's the worst. So I'm going to go through each NRS character and vote yay or nay. Okay, let's begin. We're going to start with the Mortal Kombat X characters. Again, just the characters that aren't in Mortal Kombat 1, that are only in Mortal Kombat X. Let's start with Shinnok. Also, if you don't agree with my opinion, we don't have to be sworn enemies. It sucks to even have to say that these days. Some people are just really sensitive about opinions. Would I take Shinnok over Reiko in Mortal Kombat 1? Absolutely. I think Shinnok is a cool antagonist. Do I think he was the coolest as far as power? No, he was kinda cheese at the end of MKX, but I think he is a cool antagonist. He had a lot of power, especially in the early games. Seeing him in Mortal Kombat 1, I think would be really cool. Just the way they reworked Quan Chi has my wheels turning. How would they do Shinnok? As far as the story goes, I think MK1 jumped the gun a little too far, bringing the Titans in already and having the multiverses, and so at that point it doesn't really matter. I think Shinnok would be fine to have in the game, and I hope he does show up at some point. So yeah, for sure, 100% I would take Shinnok over Reiko. Would most of you agree with that? Shinnok over Reiko on the main roster? Really? Let me know. And now we go to Erron Black from Mortal Kombat X. And this one's kind of close. I would say a little closer than how I felt with Shinnok and Reiko. But I would pick Erron Black over Reiko as well. Not all of these are going to be choices I pick over Reiko, but this one's a closer one because I see them both as jobbers. I just think Erron Black's MKX portrayal is cooler than what we have from Reiko and MK1 and more interesting in fighting. Honestly, I think the story could have been even more interesting with Erron Black instead of Reiko. Reiko's just like this mini Shao. Shao raised him through war. So you have your General and General Jr. I know that doesn't make sense. I'm just saying a bounty hunter would have been cooler. But story aside, I still would prefer to have him on the roster just for gameplay purposes. To have that character that can pull out a gun, fire at the enemies. Just that one character. I think they overdid it in 11, but I think just one would be okay in MK1, not including Striker or the cameos. So far that makes us 0-2 for our guy Reiko. Next, I'm going to compare him to Cassie Cage. I would choose Cassie Cage over Reiko, and that's because I really enjoy her banter. I wouldn't choose Cassie per se to see how she would do in story mode versus Reiko. Although I don't think Reiko was that great in story mode. If Cassie were to return through the multiverse as herself and not as a Titan, then I think it'd be more interesting to see her interact with the younger characters around her age. That I think would be pretty cool. But as far as gameplay goes, I'd still pick her over Reiko. Now having her in there with Erron Black as well, I wouldn't like seeing both of them in MK1's roster because it would feel too much like MKX or MK11 coming back, with this being a fresh game. So picking between those two, Erron Black and Cassie, would be a thing of its own too, because I would only want one to return in replace of Reiko. I wouldn't want both of them in this game. Also, when I say multiverses, I do mean timelines. I know that gets mixed up. But overall, I'm choosing Cassie on this one. Next up we have Jackie Briggs, and I think this is going to be Reiko's first break. I wouldn't bring Jackie Briggs back into MK1. With Cassie, at least in the story, she would have Johnny Cage, and that could make for some interesting arcs, especially since Johnny Cage has a different wife in this game, with Cassie Cage coming in from a different timeline, it could make for some interesting plot, especially it being the Cassie Cage from MKX, where unfortunately we don't have Jax on the main roster in MK1. Story-wise, I don't know who she would directly connect with. That is, unless we have Takeda, but him not being DLC right now, I don't know where he stands in the story. Aside from that, going to gameplay, I would choose Reiko over Jackie. Reiko finally gets a W. Next we have Kung Jin, and I don't think Kung Jin fans are going to be very happy with this, but I'm not going to choose him over Reiko. Kung Jin is honestly my least favorite of the combat kids. Most of that has to do with him being brash and personality as a character. I also didn't care for his past and stealing when they portrayed that in story mode, but I do think he has some cool gameplay mechanics, that being an archer. However, as much as I don't like him as a character, I would still choose Reiko to keep his position versus bringing Kung Jin into Mortal Kombat 1. He has fighting qualities of an interesting character, but as a character, I don't care for him. Reiko gets another W. The next one on the list is Farah Tor, which I'm going to make an exception for since as a cameo we're only going to get Farah and we're not going to have Tor. So I'm just going to treat this as if Tor was an available character. Honestly, that's kind of tough, but I could see how this could be really cool in a cameo character situation to have Farah and Tor as a main character and a cameo character. It also makes me wonder if they're not already going to do this and make Tor a downloadable character in the future. And if they do decide to do that, I think it'll be kind of interesting because this gives them a chance to flesh out the characters individually so we can learn more about them. I'm just mixing up these palettes and gears as I go along on Reiko, and this does not look like Reiko. Anyway, this next one is going to be very controversial. Would you want to see this character on the Mortal Kombat 1 roster? D'Vorah. If I'm going to get any backlash on this video, I feel like it's going to be this character, and people are going to flip. It's D'Vorah, I guarantee it, and I'm one of those rare people, I truly do believe there's not a lot of people that like D'Vorah. I'd choose her. I would, yeah. Put D'Vorah in Mortal Kombat 1. I don't agree with how they portrayed her in story mode and everything she did. Well, some of it I do. You gotta shake things up. It's Mortal Kombat. However, I think she's cool enough as a character that she could fit in here. And would I choose her over Reiko? This adaptation of Reiko, meaning even as default, I would. I would choose D'Vorah in Mortal Kombat 1 over Reiko. Oh, I know, send me off to the gallows now, but I really do like D'Vorah. I think she's a cool character. But if you think I've made more of a bold assertion with a different character in comparison and who I choose, let me know, because I think this is the one right here that's going to get people disagreeing with me the most. D'Vorah over Reiko. Put her in MK1. I said it. You know, some people really don't like D'Vorah, so I'm going to go ahead and light myself a memorial candle in case I'm not here later because someone got mad at me. I'm just going to put that right there. But I'm still here. Next we got Kotal Kahn, and would I choose Kotal Kahn over Reiko? Let's be honest, how many people would choose Kotal Kahn over Reiko? In this timeline, I would say yes. The way the story's going now, with Melina having power and the feud that they had in MKX, I would love to see how things would change now. Like, a lot. I think Kotal Kahn in this game would be very interesting just to see how things would play out. Aside from that, even gameplay wise, I would like to see how Kotal Kahn plays with MK1's mechanics. So 100% I would rather see Kotal Kahn in here than Reiko. And I'm not even the biggest Kotal Kahn fan. Next up is Bo' Rai Cho, and I don't know if we really technically can count Bo' Rai Cho. Is Bo' Rai Cho Madame Bo now? I really don't know how that's working. Or can Bo' Rai Cho return? However, I'm still going to consider it. If Bo' Rai Cho could take place of Reiko, my immediate answer is going to have to be no. And the reason is, I just prefer Reiko over Bo' Rai Cho. I'm not a big Bo' Rai Cho fan. Even in Deadly Alliance, actually especially in Deadly Alliance, I didn't care for him. I think he got a little better in X. So here, I do like him better, but I would still prefer Reiko. I'm just not a Bo' Rai Cho fan, so I choose Reiko over Bo' Rai Cho. However, if Madame Bo was the option, I would rather see Madame Bo on the roster than Reiko. Next up we have Triborg, and this one's a tricky one. I would only like to see Triborg in here if we're not going to get Sector, Cyrax, or any of the other cyborgs in here in the main roster in MK1 and any of the content. However, if we are going to get Cyrax, Sector, Cyber Sub-Zero, Cyber Smoke, any of them, then I'd rather keep Reiko and keep Triborg out. I'd like to go into this deeper at a later time, but I'll say it now that I really think it was a missed opportunity. They should have had Sector and Cyrax on the main roster, and then Triborg as a cameo for the mix-ups. Similar to how we have Chameleon for Jade, Melina, and Katana. However, without getting carried too far away, no cyborgs on the main roster in the future. Yes, I would take Triborg over Reiko, but only if we don't see DLC cyborgs. Well everyone, that's all the MKX characters. This ran longer than I expected, so if you want me to cover MK11s, let me know. I was going to cover both rosters of NRS characters, and that includes the adaptations of the same characters in MK11 as well. There's some characters in 11 that I would prefer to have in here over X, or X over 11. If that's a video you do want to see, drop a like and let me know. If you like Devora, cheers.